The 800-year-old meeting between St. Francis of Assisi and the Sultan of Egypt, Al-Malik Al-Kamil, was the focus of an entire day of reflection and study in Jerusalem, a further step to deepen this crucial event in the history of the Holy Land. From March the 29th to June the 6th, it will be possible to visit the exhibition In the Footsteps of Jesus Christ in Warsaw, a way for many Polish visitors to see some of the places of the Passion of Christ. Contemplative nuns from all over the Holy Land met on May the 8th in Jerusalem to discuss the novelty of the Cor Orans decree, which contains specific rules on the life and organization of monasteries of the contemplative life. During the General Assembly, the bishops of Brazil expressed their love for the Holy Land, their gratitude for the custody's mission to preserve the holy places, and encouraged pilgrimages. Raed, a Muslim inhabitant of the village of Al-Khader, Bethlehem, serves the monastery of St. George, helping pilgrims who come to visit this holy place. In the Immaculate Conception Hall of the Custody of the Holy Land in Jerusalem, a conference of religious was held to reflect on the meeting of St. Francis of Assisi with the Sultan Al-Malik Al-Kamil, which took place 800 years ago. We organized this conference in collaboration with the Pontifical Antonianum University of Rome, which is promoting this conference worldwide, in Spain, Istanbul, Paris, Venice, Rome, and here.
We are here as a pontifical university, and we want to give a scientific contribution of investigation and study.
It was in 1219, during the Crusades, that St. Francis of Assisi met with the Sultan of Egypt. The richness of this interreligious dialogue has been the subject of several studies. The meeting of St. Francis and the Sultan, for us Franciscans in general, and especially for us Franciscans of the Custody of the Holy Land, is fundamental, because thanks to that meeting our presence was able to establish itself, and thanks to that meeting St. Francis was also able to develop a method of missionary presence in a predominantly Muslim context. The historical context was that of the Damietta Crusade, which took place from 1217 to 1221, the period in which the Sultan of Egypt reigned. The speaker highlighted the existence of an Arab source in which there is a reference to the meeting between the Sultan and St. Francis. Only one source is known. There is a funeral epitaph, a wise man of the Quranic law of the Sultan, who was very old and very famous. And it is the only Arabic source of this encounter. Among other things, its interpretation is not 100% certain, but it can be assumed that it concerns that very meeting. The conference was also an opportunity to discuss other topics related to the meeting of 1219. The crusade preaching at the time of Francis of Assisi. This was the object of the speech I gave at this conference.
La mia relazione di questo pomeriggio verterà sulla lettura.
My paper focuses on the reading interpretation that a scholar of Islam, a Tuscan Franciscan, Father Giulio Bassetti Sani, born in 1912 and died in 2001, made on the encounter between Francis and the Sultan.
Dell'incontro tra Francesco e il Sultano.
Reflections and scholars have thus highlighted the simple but bold gesture made 8 centuries ago by St. Francis of Assisi. In the Footsteps of Jesus Christ. This is the title of the multimedia exhibition dedicated to the Holy Land that was inaugurated in Warsaw, under the patronage of the Polish Diocese of the Custody of the Holy Land. From March the 29th to June the 6th, in a path that wants to bring together students, teachers, and others, you can see some places of the Passion of Jesus Christ linked to the last moments of his earthly life. We begin with the upper room, the Last Supper, Then we descend to Gethsemane, to agony, and proceed to the Holy Sepulchre, the Golgotha and the Holy Sepulchre. Then we end up at the cenacle again with the Pentecost. The exhibition is multimedia, and it focuses on the buildings, but a room is dedicated to the copies of the instruments used during the Passion, among which we find the nails, the money paid to Judas, the ring of Pilate, with which he probably sealed the condemnation of Jesus Christ, the crown of thorns, the spear that pierced the side of Jesus on the cross.
Tutti quelli, anche la lancia, quella che ha trafitto il lato di Cristo Gesù sulla croce.
It has been prepared and presented as a religious program, especially for the Lenten and Easter period, and its aim is to give schools the opportunity to make a catechesis on the last days of Jesus Christ here on holy ground.
Questo fa vedere, fa avvicinare.
This brings not only children but also adults closer to the very passion of Jesus Christ. It is a complete exposition that brings together and makes us understand the last days of Christ, what he lived and suffered on the human side.
E soffrire soprattutto in questo senso qui dal lato umano.
An exhibition that has been a huge internal success, but that could go beyond Polish borders.
E andranno a finire a Częstochowa, a Jasna Góra, alla Madonna Nera.
It will be then moved to Częstochowa, to the Black Madonna, and then to Wrocław, and perhaps next to Santiago de Compostela, and perhaps in Mexico to Our Lady of Guadalupe.
So anche dal santuario di Madonna di Guadalupe in Messico.
Pope Francis called it the praying heart of the Church. It is the precious, though little visible, world of contemplative life. Recently, it has received particular attention from the Church, first through the Apostolic Consortium Vultum Dei Quaerere, and then with the decree Cor Orans, which applies it and contains specific rules on the life and organization of monasteries. On May the 8th in Jerusalem, at the custody of the Holy Land, Monsignor José Rodríguez Carvalho, Secretary of the Congregation for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, arrived to explain the news to the contemplative sisters of the whole Holy Land. It is a moment of encounter to show the love that the Church has for the contemplative life. Then a second objective is the encounter between them. Many of the monasteries present here do not know each other, even those of the same order, so it is fundamental that they meet each other. Then certainly to show them some challenges of the federation, of autonomy, of seclusion, and then the great challenge of formation. And it is precisely on formation that we are about to publish a document which will be entitled The Art of Looking for the Face of God, Guidelines for the Formation of Contemplatives.
L'arte della ricerca del volto di Dio, linee orientative per la formazione delle contemplative.
Throughout the Holy Land there are 14 monasteries, of which 9 in Judea and 5 in Galilee, and mostly of Latin rite, within which 174 nuns of 6 different orders have chosen to put at the center of their lives prayer, brotherhood and hospitality.
Beh, la vita contemplativa diciamo che è nata in questa terra e il monachesimo è sempre stato.
Contemplative life was born in this land. Monasticism has always been very alive. We are a small presence that collects the legacy of these 2,000 years of history. The simplest thing, or even the deepest and truest, is that we are truly a prayerful presence. First of all, Christian. We bear witness to a presence that gathers the cry of peace, freedom, and unity, which rises from these peoples and also from these religions. Prayer is our first vocation, and it meets and intersects with the vocation to pray for our Jewish and Muslim brothers and sisters. From here, that a prayer rises, let's say one next to the other, is important. And then there are daily bonds of friendship with Jewish and Muslim brothers, and also with people who have their own search for God. We are here to say that Jesus Christ is still alive.
Con fratelli ebrei e fratelli musulmani e anche persone che hanno la loro ricerca di Dio.
La clausura y la soledad y el silencio son elementos esenciales en nuestra vida contemplativa.
Closure, solitude, and silence are essential elements of our contemplative life. without which we cannot not only pray, which is our ministry, but be ourselves, a continuous praise of the Lord for all, in a fragmented land which cries out in all its realities the need for peace and to live in communion and brotherhood. We feel we are praying among people who pray.
La necesidad de la paz y sobre todo yo diría de vivir en comunión, en fraternidad. Nosotros nos sentimos como orantes entre orantes.
Dappertutto è importantissima.
Everywhere, the presence of the contemplative life is very important, but here even more so. In addition to being instruments of dialogue, you shall be truly supportive of the weak members of the Church here in the Holy Land, both Christians and non-Christians, and be lighthouses, oil lamps and watchmen in today's world.
E sentinelle nel mondo di oggi.
From May the 1st to May the 10th, the CNBB, the National Conference of Bishops of Brazil, held its 57th General Assembly in the National Shrine of Aparecida. The CNBB was the first episcopal conference to be established and today has 307 regular bishops with the right to vote and speak, and 139 bishops emeriti. Friar Francesco Patton, Costas of the Holy Land, sent a message to the bishops thanking them for the welcome they received during their visit to Brazil.
Excelentíssimos e caríssimos senhores bispos, minha saudação de pace bem.
The Brazilian Church and the pilgrims have a great appreciation for the Holy Land. We feel great affection for these places, which are well cared for and preserved by the Franciscans of the custody, and where we are very well received. We want to encourage even more the pilgrimage to the holy places.
Pela custódia da Terra Santa, e que somos tão bem recebidos, que nós somos cada vez mais chamados a incentivar o nosso povo nas suas peregrinações.
Monsignor João Inácio Müller, who spent 3 years in Jerusalem, remembers the 800th anniversary of the pilgrimage of peace of St. Francis and the challenges of ecumenism. The friars have been in the Holy Land since 1219. The experience of ecumenism in the Holy Land is lived in concrete terms. Every day they practice ecumenism with respect for the cultural differences between the Arabs, the Jews, but also our Christian brothers who have different forms of religious expression. For the Franciscan Archbishop of Brasilia, who also had an intense experience in the Holy Land, the 800 years of presence of the friars in the holy places are very significant.
Significa trazer à memória passado de diálogo, de
It means remembering a past made of dialogue and respect, but above all remembering the historical events that generated our faith. We took this opportunity to invite all Catholics to visit the Holy Land. It is an opportunity for a true retreat, a true encounter with the person of Jesus, with our history, with our roots, with our sources. The new president of the Brazilian Conference of Bishops also expressed his love for the Holy Land.
Terra Santa é coração de espiritualidade que alimenta o caminho da nossa vida cristã.
The Holy Land is a heart of spirituality that nourishes the path of the Christian life. That is why we are committed to supporting the custody, which maintains this precious heritage that we need. We need not only to preserve the memory of events, but also to feed on it, which is a very important asset for us.
Mas precisamos porque nós dele nos alimentamos e se torna para nós uma força muito importante nesse caminho.
In the words of Monsignor Walmor Oliveira, the hope of visiting the Holy Land soon. May this journey come soon, for it will be a great joy. Raed Salah, born in the village of Al-Khader, Bethlehem district, grew up in the monastery of St. George, where he has been working for over 20 years. He's in charge of the monastery's issues and basic needs, as well as lighting candelabrum lanterns and helping visitors. On St. George's Day, hundreds of faithful, Muslim and Christians, go to the monastery to honor their vows. Raed's mother used to go to the monastery to light a candle. Her son Raed told us some of the stories and miracles his mother experienced.
الحجة تبعتنا اللي هي أمي يعني أنظرت إن
My late mother vowed to light a large candelabrum every year for the sake of her children until her death. God bless her soul. Let us carry the message that we have inherited from her, and we will pass it on to our future generations. She used to hear the sound of a horse. She would go out at night to find out what was going on, and obviously no one could be around at 2 or 3 in the morning. For many days she lived with this conviction, always wondering what she had heard. She was told that the knight was no other than St. George who came to visit her house. She told us a story she had lived. One day she went to pick up the remaining olives from the fields of the monastery at the end of the season. She took with her a jar of black olives, which the following day was filled with cockroaches. She threw it away, but it was then found in its original state, that is, full of olives. Abuna, father in Arabic, is a common name by which Raed is known in the village of Al-Khader. In fact, he spent most of his time inside the walls of the monastery, a testimony to unity, peace, and devotion. Her beautiful icons will remain a sign of art and faith. Sister Maria Paola Farran, from the Benedictine monastery of the Mount of Olives, died in Jerusalem on May the 8th, a life spent in prayer and silence, dedicating herself to the art of iconography, in which she's said to have found a deep communion with God. 10 years ago, Father Giorgio Colombini, founder and longtime custodian of the Hermitage of Gethsemane at the foot of the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, died. Here on May the 10th, a Mass was celebrated to remember his life and his ministry. Relatives and friends, along with Father Diego Dalla Gassa, who today continues his work in caring for this special place, prayed at the tomb of Father George, placed inside the garden. 10 Franciscan friars were ordained deacons in Jerusalem on May the 12th. The ceremony took place at the Church of St. Saviour and was presided over by Archbishop Pierbattista Pizzaballa, Apostolic Administrator of the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem, in the presence of the Custos of the Holy Land, Brother Francesco Patton. Some of the new deacons will serve the Holy Land, others in different parts of the world.